Hello.
Oh, hi, Jillian and Jordan.
Awesome. So for those, Mary, maybe if you can do an intro of who you are, what you do at AWS to everyone here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on today. My name is Mary Olson. I'm a senior product manager for Amazon Omics. I work with the health AI team at AWS.
Good stuff. So, what is Amazon Omics? I actually wasn't familiar with this service before.
Yeah, great question. So Amazon Omics is a purpose-built service that we launched last year at re:Invent. And it's really designed and purposely built for healthcare and life science organization to help with storing, querying, and analyzing their data so that they can really focus on the science and help generate insights.
I love it. And then specifically, it sounds like there's been a lot going on with the Amazon Omics team. So tell everyone about really some of the exciting launches that you have.
Yeah, we just had a launch earlier this week, which I'm so excited about. And so when we launched Amazon Omics, we've heard back from customers that, this service is great. It's helping them implement and really help with multi-omics and multimodal analysis. And that was a really great start. But we also heard back from a lot of customers that building quicker and also scaling up faster and getting started quicker was still a need. And so what we did in the past 6 months, because we just launched at the end of November, is that we really got to work and, we took this to heart and we've built new features and capabilities within Amazon Omics to really address building up applications, scaling up, and then getting started faster. And so to help with building applications, we now have a capability to integrate with Amazon Event Bridge. And this is really where customers can build their applications and end-to-end solution by consuming, Amazon Omics published events. And so what this will enable customers to do is really build their event-driven architectures that can then consume these published events. And so they would be able to create a sequence store or a variant store or complete a run. And then now they can just easily trigger off of these events and be able to perform upstream or a downstream activity based off of these events. So it's making it easy.
Really quick, Mary, sorry. Can I ask, what would an example of an event be for this type of work?
That's a good question. Yeah,
that's a great question. So let's say I'm a lab, right? And I have a laboratory information management system up front, and that's where my lab technicians are looking at processing their lab, right? And they're processing their samples through, and they are running now a sequencer, and they're sequencing that blood sample, and they're getting the DNA sample off of that instrument. And once that information comes off of that instrument, they put it into Amazon Omics, and they start that run. That run could take 2 hours, can take 3 days, right? So you're not really looking at it anymore. But with Event Bridge, now when that run completes, we publish an event out to Event Bridge, and their software system can listen to that and say, hey, I'm done, right? And it triggers off the next activity. Maybe the next activity is QCing that information to make sure that that data coming off makes sense, right? And then going to that next step. So this is really enabling customers to build that end-to-end solution, right? From a bigger architecture perspective.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you so much for that example. That helps a lot. Yeah, that's really neat. I can definitely see that being really useful for scientific labs. I have worked in a couple of those myself, and indeed, waiting around for several hours / days for your job to finish is certainly, one of the struggles.
Exactly. And so some of the other features or capabilities that we're launching, so for example, to help with scaling up faster, we actually launched 3 new capabilities. And so one of those is a direct upload to our Omics storage. And so this is really enabling customers who have like larger FastQ, BAM, or CRAM files. And now we're enabling customers to upload this in a multi-part upload. And so let's say your internet goes down, right, in the middle of your upload. you don't want to restart this, right? Because it could take time. And so when that happened, you can automatically reassume because we're actually uploading in multiple parts. So that's a feature that's going to help our customers as well. Another feature for scaling up faster is automatic variant parsing. And so now what we're enabling customers to do is that they can take their variant call files and pull out all that annotation data. We put it into a new structure, and then now they can easily query that information. And another feature for scaling up faster, as Jeff was talking about GPUs earlier, about G5 instances, we're excited to share that we are supporting GPU instances. G4s, DNs, and G5s. So the G5 instances that Jeff was talking about now is also available in Omics workflows. And so customers are now able to not only process accelerated genomics pipeline, but as well as AI-driven pipelines. And you'll see one in our Ready2Run workflows.
Wow, that is so many launches. You guys must have been like working flat out for the past 6 months.
The team has been amazing and incredible. And, we're just so customer focused, and we heard these needs. And so we really got to work. It's been 6 months, and there's so many launches. I'm so excited about it, as you can tell.
Oh, yeah.
And so to what we're talking about today, which is the last feature that we've launched this week, are Ready2Run workflows. And so Ready2Run workflows are a set of pre-built pipelines that we've worked with third-party partners and companies, software companies, as well as we brought in open source pipelines. And this is really enabling customers to get started quickly. And so what we've taken an approach is what we heard back, there's very common use cases and common pipelines that a lot of our customers are running. And so what we wanted to do was get that up into the cloud and make it easier for them to run. So what they can simply do is just bring their data, put their data in, and then be able to start their run just within a few clicks or a single API call. And there's no setup or anything on the back end. We have it all set up in Amazon Omics.
So what type of workflow are we talking about here? Like what exactly would be processed in this steps?
Great question. And so we have open source workflows for germlines and somatic pipelines. And so we have the GATK best practice workflows from the Broad Institute. So we brought those in that would take FASTQ files and then transform that into variant call files, calling out the different SNPs and indels for those file types. We also have RNA-seq data pipeline from NF Core. This is another popular pipeline from the NF Core community. And so we brought that in. And then we also have, these are the more of the AI-driven pipelines, are AlphaFold and ESMFold for protein structure prediction. So we've heard earlier in some of the talks about inference, right? And so these two pipelines enable customers to perform inference on their protein sequence and really giving the protein structure prediction of those protein sequence. And so those are our open source pipelines. We also have pipelines from our third-party software companies as well. And so we have pipelines from Element Biosciences. And this pipeline is taking the output files from their analytical instrument, their sequencer, and we're converting that to a FASTQ file that can then go into a secondary analysis. And so that's one of our set of pipelines. The other workflows that we also have include secondary analysis workflows. And these are the NVIDIA Parabricks workflows for germline and somatic, including their deep variant, which is also AI-driven as well. And then we also have the Synteon pipelines as part of this for germline, somatic, and then also long-read support analysis for PacBio and Oxford Nanopore. So about 35 workflows, Ready2Run workflows that we have prepackaged. And this is only the start. We understand there's a need. And so we're going to be working with our customers to understand what other workflows they want us to get packaged and be able to host on Amazon Omics so they can get started quickly.
Wow, I love it. I know there's probably some people who've been joining at different times. Like Naduri in the chat would just wanted to say, like, help us quickly fill us in. And I'm sure some people are wondering too. We're talking about Amazon Omics, specifically ready-to-run workflows. But if you are coming in late and you want to watch this from the beginning, you can check it out on YouTube. But we do this live because as we are talking, feel free to pop your questions in the chat. I'm going to be looking at the chat, and that's why we have Mary and other people from her team here are also going to be in the chat to answer your questions as we are talking about these really exciting features. So now back to you, Mary. Who would really benefit the most from like ready-to-run workflows?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have seen customers in diagnostic labs, in pharma labs, even academic researchers, right, that have benefited. And this is really because these are common workflows. And what this really enables bioinformaticians, computational biologists, and scientists, and data scientists is that because these are common use for workflows, they can offload, their data sets that use these common workflows and then really focus their time on the custom workflows, right? And so that really enables them to expand and be able to focus more on, customizing a workflow that's more specific for a different data type, but being able to still process the data that requires these common workflows as well.
I was just sharing something that someone on your team actually shared the URL in the chat. So I was just sharing that as well for everyone if they wanted to rewatch this episode. Jordan, I think we should see a demo. Right?
Absolutely. Let's see it. I want to see the scene.
Oh, yeah. I am excited to be sharing a demo. All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
And yeah, while we're waiting for that, I know we've got, Alex wants to see the demo. I love it. Thank you, Alex. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Great.
It's demo time. All right.
Perfect. And so Amazon Omics is truly serverless. It's fully managed on the back end. So what that means is that you can call Amazon Omics through AWS CLI, or you can come directly to Amazon Omics console. And so if you have an AWS account, log in, search for Amazon Omics, and you'll be able to land on this page here to get started. And so within Amazon Omics, I mentioned earlier, there's 3 components within Amazon Omics. There's Omics Storage, Omics Analytics, and then Omics Workflows. And so under Omics Workflows, we have the Ready2Run workflows. If you click on the Ready2Run workflows here, what you'll see is 3 steps of how you can start the Ready2Run workflows. You can see a list of all the available workflows, the version of the workflows, and the best part, a predictable price per run. We've been hearing a lot from our customers that it's hard to determine how much the cost is for per run. And so we wanted to make that easier for our customers. So every time they run, let's say the AlphaFold workflow, they know that at a list price, it's going to cost them $9 to run this workflow. Sorry, was there a question?
No, just saying that's great. love predictable cost management. I know that customers are really are really going to benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we also show the publisher and if there's a subscription required, and we provide you with an estimated runtime. So you have an idea of how long it would take. This is an estimated runtime. The actual time really depends on the file size that you actually inputted, as well as available resources. But this will at least give you a sense of how long that particular workflow will take.
Now, and so does the price change at all depending on the file you upload?
No. So we have, so that's a great question. And so this is a list price this is a price per run. And so as long as you meet the file size requirement, that's the price that you pay. So we do a file size check. If it doesn't meet the requirement, we'll give you an error and say, this file may be too large or so. And then you'll know that it wouldn't work with this particular workflow. And as you can see, we've separated these out so you can have that cost saving as well. So if you only had, for example, AlphaFold, you only have 600 residues or less, right? That's going to cost you less than if you were going to have a protein sequence that has between 600 to 1200 residues. And so that's going to cost you a little bit more. So we've actually tiered it up, knowing that, there's going to be different use cases as well, so that you can get that cost saving too. And so if you want to run a ready-to-run workflow, we're just going to give an example here. You can search for that workflow. We're going to go ahead and do a very, very common workflow here. It's our GATK best practice from the Broad Institute for germline analysis using FASTQ files to generate variant call files for a 30x genome. Once you click into the workflow, what we provide you is an overview of what is that workflow, including the workflow software versions, because that's very important when you actually use these tools. Depending on the version that you're using, it could potentially give you a different output. And so you want to make sure that you check the workflow software tool, and we've shown it right up front, so you have that information in front of you. We also provide you with test data and example parameter files so you can get started quickly. So you can use this test data and you can run the pipeline to make sure that it's what you're expecting and how it should be set up before you even use your own real data as well. And then if you have questions about the pipeline, because a lot of these are, well, actually all of them are, from either open source community pipelines or from third-party software companies, we also link that information out. And so you can click on that link and be able to learn more about those pipelines. Within Amazon Omics, we provide an workflow overview. So it gives you all the details of exactly what's happening in the workflow, what's happening in each of the steps, what tools are being used again. And if you want to learn more about the tools, you can click on the link and it'll take you to that page. So it's very easy to better understand how these workflows work. And then we also provide you with a workflow diagram. And this gives you a more overview of exactly what's happening in each one of the steps. What are the intermediate outputs that's happening, that's going through here, and then what is your final output? And so customers can review this information, and if they say, hey, you know what, this workflows look great to me, I want to create a workflow out of this. And so they can click a workflow, put in their the name of the workflow, put in their output location. Here.
Wow, it's a pretty substantial run storage capacity.
Yeah, there's a lot of data that could be generated for some of these runs, and so customers can choose for this particular run. We've set it at 1.2, but if they're running a private workflow, they can set it at a different storage size, and so they can input in the S3 output location. They can choose their service role, and the service role is really just giving us access to pull in those data files that you'll be putting in. The next place is to add in your parameters. So parameters are really just the files that you want us to process. And so you can either enter this information manually, or you can upload a JSON file. And so we're going to upload a JSON file. If you do that, it automatically parses it in. You can also see the fixed parameters so that you know exactly what other parameters we're using for this particular workflow. And then once that's done, you click on next, you review the information you have inputted in, and you click on start run, and that's it. And now you got a run started. And so now it's going to take your data, your FASTQ file, process it through, align it, and then determine the variance that's coming out of this your sequencing data. And so once that's done, and you can go into the run list view, and you can see that it's starting. You can see the workflow name, when it's created, and you can see other workflows that you've done, right? I've completed a workflow here. If you have a failure, you'll see a failure clearly show up here as well. And you'll see, how much time those workflows have taken. So as you can see here, it's really quick, really simple, just a few clicks through. You can also use the API with just one API call to start these runs as well. And you can come back in here and actually see all of the workflows again going through this. Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned at one point about private workflows. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Is it like can you modify your own and create your own kind of like DIY ready to run workflows?
Exactly. And so we actually started out with Amazon Omics having private workflows, and these are basically bring your own workflows, right? So if you have your own software tools and your own workflow script, you can bring these to Amazon Omics, and we provision all the underlying infrastructure. And so you bring your Docker container, you bring your workflow script, you create a workflow in Amazon Omics, and then you can run that workflow right? And so this really gives you the flexibility. You can customize any of these workflows, and it's really yours, right? And so we started off with this, and so customers can bring their own, or they can run one of our ready-to-run workflows.
Cool. So
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead,
you
Jordan.
said it's serverless. So like the whole thing end to end is completely serverless, yeah?
Correct. Yes.
Cool. Wow. Yeah, I can totally imagine that's gonna save customers like so much time and money. I always remember, just having to deal with such capacity issues on my university cluster whenever I was trying to run anything. It's always like throttled, and so and obviously like you don't need to process terabytes of data all the time, but like you definitely want to be like, all right, provision these resources, shut them down when we're done. That's gonna be great.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we've hearing back from a lot of customers, is because since we're managing that, they're seeing cost savings as well, right? And so all they do is put in the CPU, GPU, or memory that they need, and we pick the best instance for them. And so they're not going through and selecting an instance, but we actually do all of that. And then we provision it for them, and then we deprovision everything. And so they're not getting that extra cost of maybe they forgot, right? And so we have seen from customers that there's cost savings from going on Amazon Omics.
I'm glad you just reiterated that, because that's what Alex in the chat was kind of, I guess, observing too. And so it's good that you called that out. Some things I also wanted to call out. We've got Lee Pang, who's just dropping all this wisdom in the chat. So there's a link that Lee dropped earlier if you want to learn more. And also, Lee dropped another fun fact about Amazon Omics workflows in case you missed it. There was a question here that Alex was asking. Are there any stories from customers about Amazon Omics that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited. Like earlier this year, I was able to share that as part of the launch, and definitely check out our launch blogs that we launched this past week. But we have Frey Diagnostics that's using ready-to-run workflows. They're using Element Biosciences basis to FastQ pipeline, and what they're saying is that it's really been helping streamline their process and getting to secondary analysis faster. And so that's a diagnostic company. We've also seen Kite Pharma using ready-to-run workflows. They're using our single-cell RNA-seq ready-to-run workflow, and they're already seeing the power of it because it's really enabling their bioinformaticians to run these workflows, and then allowing them to focus on customizing other types of workflows that's needed within the lab. Another customer that we're seeing is at Columbia University, Dan Hughes, who's running the bioinformatics, the director of bioinformatics there. He's also seeing a lot of the benefits. One thing that he shared with us is that the ease of use, the scalability, he really feels like it's going to lower the barrier for bioinformaticians to use this and really accelerate the path for clinical genomics. And so we're seeing impact of ready-to-run already at a lot of life science and biotech companies.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So I'm sure we've got people in the audience who are all different experience levels. I see that there are some people here who are working maybe at labs as well. So they're probably listening to this and they're just wondering, like, do you have any advice for them really to help them decide like which workflow they should be running?
Yeah, great question. Well, it depends on what research they're doing, but if they're looking at one of our ready-to-run workflows, definitely read the launch blog, right? And if you have an AWS account or, create an AWS account, you can easily jump into the console and get all of that information that I just showed you. You can get the information, the workflow overview. You can see the diagram. You can click through and see like what are the pipelines about. All that rich data is in our console. And so if you don't have an AWS account yet, I would highly recommend to get one.
Now's the time.
you can go in and look at all this data. But yeah, definitely read our launch blog. It has a lot of information on what we've launched, as well as our partners' workflows too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. That was amazing. I'm inspired. That's really cool.
I know. I mean, it looks so simple. I'm like, oh, now I just need to learn the science. I mean, that's the right.
You need to understand what all of those letters mean.
Now I know the serverless part. And I'll also share some of the links that other people from the Amazon Omics team. So check out this GitHub if you want to see some examples. Thank you so much, Lee. And Domin was also sharing, you can go to this URL if you want to find out more details about just Amazon Omics. Both of you are awesome. And yeah, Mary, thank you so much.
Well, thank you both for having me on, and thank you, everyone. Yeah, definitely reach out to us, through LinkedIn or, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Perfect.